カリカリカリカリ。
Yo, welcome back everyone. Faye here, and we're jumping right into part 2 of the tutorials. If you're new to car config customizations and haven't checked out part 1 yet, make sure to watch it first to get the basics down. It'll save you some confusion later. And if you're already familiar with Notepad modding, you might still find some cool tips in there. For those who've been experimenting based on the first tutorial, I hope you're having fun with it. Now, let's get back in the lab and do some cooking. I totally forgot to mention this small but important detail in the last video.
I'm too old for this.
Guess that's just the perks of getting older. You can actually apply customizations to specific skins of your car, meaning you don't have to stick to one configuration for all skins. For example, you can have different settings for each skin of the same car before hitting the track. Let me show you. This car has multiple skins. If I pick this skin, the DRL is blue. But if I switch to this skin, the DRL turns pink. Now, if you check the code in the skin folder, you'll see the custom DRL color applied specifically to that skin, while the other customizations stay the same in the main extension folder. And the possibilities don't stop there. You can mix and match endless combinations. For example, you could have a sleek carbon dashboard on one skin and a basic plastic dashboard on another. The customization options are practically limitless. Now it's time to jump into driver animation. We'll start with the pedal response animation, which animates the driver's feet while accelerating and braking. Head over to the driver animation section in the base code, grab both animation codes, and paste them into the car's extension config. Next, go to the pedal response animation folder in your downloaded files, where you'll find gas 1 to gas 4 for acceleration, and brake 1 to brake 4 for braking. Copy one gas animation and one brake animation into your car's animation folder. Once that's done, go back to your car config and enter the file names in the name field. For example, I'm using gas 2 and brake 2 here to see how it plays out. Depending on the driver model and positioning, sometimes the gas and brake animations don't quite sync up. Kind of like when you try to pat your head and rub your belly at the same time.
What are you doing?
If that happens, just swap the animation files. You might find that using matching numbers like gas 1 and brake 1 works, or maybe gas 1 with brake 3. The thing to remember is that each car has its own unique driver model, and sometimes the animation nodes don't feel like cooperating. That's just one of those little quirks when trying to make the driver's feet dance in harmony. For the shifting animation, there's no need to mess with any config files. It's as simple as copying the shift animation directly into your car's animation folder. If you're driving a car with paddle shifters, just copy any Shift Up and Shift DW file from the paddle shift folder, and don't forget to delete the numbers in the file name to make it work. For cars with a stick shifter, copy any shift animation from the stick shift folder to your car's animation folder, and again, remove the numbers at the end of the file name. And that's it, you're all set. Now, if the hand animation looks a little off or misplaced for the stick shift, just swap out the shift file with another one from the folder. Just remember to delete the number in the file name. Bonus tip, you can actually grab pedal or shifting animations from any other car you have in the game. So you're not limited to the animations I've provided in the files. Mix and match to find the perfect animation that suits your driving style. Next up, we have custom emissive light indicators, a great addition inside your cockpit. These can be anything from simple indicator lights to more advanced signals that give you insight into your car, making the driving experience even more immersive. In the base code, you'll find a variety of ready-to-use custom emissive codes. Pick any code you want and apply it to an object using the same methods we covered in part 1. Let's start with this main display, which can also function as a light indicator. When the lights are off, the screen shows no backlight. But when the lights are on, the display changes color. It turns blue for high beams and orange for low beams. You can adjust these colors to suit whatever look you're going for. Now, for a bit of fun, you can turn this paddle shifter into an RPM indicator using the same method as before. Just apply the code, and the paddle shifter will now respond to your engine's RPM based on the value you've set for the input threshold parameter. Aside from the functions we've tested here, I've also prepped a few more goodies like the low fuel indicator, ABS and traction control indicator, and even license plate lights. Because hey, why not light up everything, right? I've added some helpful descriptions for a few parameters to give you hints on what they do and how to use them. I'll likely add more custom emissive codes down the line, so stay tuned for updates. You can catch those either in this channel's community tab or on the mod page at overtake.gg. Keep an eye out, you never know when I'll throw in more glowing surprises. We're moving on to digital info on the steering wheel, which involves modifying your car's data folder. Now, this part of the tutorial is a bit different. A quick heads up, altering the data folder can prevent you from joining certain online servers, as it controls key aspects of your car, like handling, performance, and driver position. This can cause checksum errors, leading to you getting kicked from servers. To avoid this, just duplicate the car and give it a unique name so you can still use the original for online play. Of course, if you're not planning on racing online with this car, you can skip the duplication. For this tutorial, we'll be using the Audi RS3 BTCC as an example. First, open the digitalinstruments.ini file located in the car's data folder. If your car doesn't have a data folder, simply unpack it by clicking Unpack Data at the bottom of the Content Manager, and then rename the data.acd file in the car's folder to something else. Next, load the game so we can make live modifications. To enable live editing of the digitalinstruments.ini file, we need to turn on the console. Here's a shortcut not everyone knows. Press Ctrl-Alt-Backtick to access the CSP settings live in-game. Most of the settings here can be tweaked while the game is running. Go to the GUI section and uncheck Hide and Disable Console to enable it. Close the settings, then press Home on your keyboard to open the console. Now, type Set Observe Digital 1, remember it's case sensitive, and press Enter. Press Home again to close the console. With that done, you're ready to start customizing the digitalinstruments.ini file for the steering wheel info display. Let's say we're adding the current gear info to the steering wheel, ignoring the fact that it's already on the HUD. To speed things up, we'll start with what's already available in this car's digitalinstruments.ini file, rather than jumping into the base code just yet. First, look at the item numbers in the file. These represent all the active digital instruments. The first item always starts with 0, and in this car, the last digital info is item 3. Now, copy the gear code, paste it below item 3, and rename it to item 4. Next, change the object in the parent field to steer HR, and set the color value to 0, 255, 0, 255 to make it green. Leave the other parameters as they are for now, then save the file. And just like that, the gear info is now displayed in green on the steering wheel. To adjust the position of any item, the values for X, Y, and Z start at 0, which represents the centered coordinate. For X, increasing the value moves the item to the left, and decreasing it moves it to the right. For Y, increasing moves the item up, and decreasing brings it down. For Z, increasing moves the item forward, while decreasing pulls it backward. When making adjustments, it's best to make small changes in the digits after the decimal point for precise control. You can apply this same method to adjust the size and intensity values to suit your preferences. If you want to change the font, check the available fonts in Content Manager. I usually start by changing the font first, as it makes adjusting the other parameters easier once the font is in place. I've put together a base code for the digital instruments, complete with explanations for the parameters and values. Feel free to experiment with it to enhance your game immersion. And don't just stick to the steering wheel. Get creative. Try placing info in other spots around the car, like I did here. Just remember, you're still driving a car, not setting up the cockpit for a sci-fi movie. Let's switch gears and get into custom paint jobs. I'll jump straight to applying a new paint job by copying the custom paint presets I've prepared in the base code. I'll paste them into the custom config for one of this car's skins so we can see how each custom paint turns out. This car's rocking a nice dark yellow paint for now. I'm going to grab the material name using the Object Inspector and plug it into one of the paint presets I just pasted. Let's start with the metallic finish. Nothing too wild, but it adds that extra metallic sheen to the surface. Next, let's try the next paint preset. Check it out. We've now got some metallic flakes in the finish. We can adjust the intensity of the flakes by tweaking this value. Let's bring it down to 3.5. That gives us softer flakes, but they're still shining. Just enough to be flashy, but not enough to blind someone. Now let's switch to the chameleon preset. Big change, right?
You're goddamn right.
You can tweak the secondary color by adjusting the clear coat tint value. Just make small adjustments. You don't want it to look like you accidentally dipped your car in a rainbow. The color combination you see here is based on the car's current yellow paint. So using a different base color will give you a completely new look. And remember, don't be afraid to experiment. Play around with the parameters until you're happy with the paint job. I've added some quick explanations for certain parameters in case you need a hint. While we're at it, I'll go ahead and test a few more paint presets on different cars. Let's see how they all look. Alright, let's get into some fiery customization with exhaust smoke and flames. But that's not all. I've also included exhaust glow, where you can make your exhaust glow at certain temperatures with customizable colors. And then there's the shaking exhaust, which makes the exhaust shake when the throttle is engaged, adding a little extra rumble to really bring your car to life. Load up your car and start by copying the exhaust flames from the base code into the car's config, then hit save. Now, your car's got some fresh new flames coming out of the exhaust. What you see here is the default flame size, which is firing based on the limiter intensity values. Yeah, they're a bit oversized for now. The next set of flames, which fire after hitting the limiter, are the discharge flames controlled by the discharge parameter codes right here. Now, back to the limiter. If I reduce the limiter intensity value to something like 0.01, the flames get smaller. Want bigger flames? Just crank the numbers up. Try 5 or go wild with 20 if you're feeling dramatic. The same goes for discharge intensity. The current value is set to 5, but you can adjust it to whatever flame size suits your mood. The discharge duration controls how long the flames last when triggered. So if you're planning a little parking lot barbecue, feel free to make it last longer. Play around with the other flame parameters to get just the look you want. To change the flame colors, adjust the color multiplier values. These are in RGB plus intensity, but this time one represents 100%, so you'll be working with decimals here. Go for any color you want, get creative. Another key parameter that affects how the flames look is the temperature multiplier. This controls the flame color based on its temperature. 0 gives you mostly smoke, 1 shifts toward red, and anything higher will brighten the flames, gradually reducing the red as the temperature increases. Now let's fix the bounced flame light. It looks a bit off. This car has 2 exhaust pipes, but the code for the bounced flame light only covers 1. To sync them, simply duplicate the code and change the 0 to 1 for the second exhaust. And there you go, perfectly synced flame lights with both exhausts. Now let's add the exhaust glow and shaking exhaust codes to the config. Use the object inspector to copy the exhaust object name, then paste it into the meshes field for both codes. If the car has more than one exhaust, just paste both object names separated by a comma. To make the exhaust glow earlier, reduce the input min value. This controls the minimum temperature for the glow to start. But be careful, setting it lower than 79 can make the exhaust glow constantly, which can look a bit unrealistic. I'd recommend keeping it between 79 and 82 so you get a nice fade effect when it cools down. For the shaking exhaust, the main parameter you'll want to adjust is the 0.0 scale. The current value is 0.8, but if I increase it to 2.5, it makes the exhaust shake more noticeably. And if you really want to have some fun, push the value even higher. Just don't be surprised if it looks like your exhaust is trying to shake itself off the car. Let's get into the dynamic intro camera. This feature gives you some seriously cool moving camera shots from different angles right after loading finishes, before anything else even happens. It's like getting a cinematic reveal of your car every time you hit the track. You'll see smooth camera movements showcasing your ride from all the best angles, adding that professional, polished feel to your game. Here's the trick. Pick any car you want to customize, load it up in the CM showroom, and head over to Camera Settings. All you have to do is click the Edit button. This will open Notepad with a bunch of camera settings, but guess what? You don't even need to touch them. Just close Notepad. It's already done. To see it in action in the showroom, check the Follow Trajectory option. Now, every time your car hits the track, you'll get those slick cinematic camera shots. And just like that, you're a camera wizard without even trying. Who knew getting fancy angles could be easier than adjusting exhaust flames? That wraps up part 2 of the tutorial. Thanks so much for all the views, comments, and subscribes on the first video. It really means a lot. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore even more cool customizations. And by the way, my mods and content will always be free, but if you want to support the channel, feel free to check out my Patreon. Thanks again. Keep those mods fresh, your car's looking sleek, and as always, stay awesome.